All right, so today, was Bruce a real fighter? I'm Eric Hard GKD, Eric Hard Jeet Kune. We're here at 628 College Street, the birthplace of Jeet Kune. This is where my teacher Jerry trained with Bruce, along with the guys for so many years. A lot of memories, there's a lot of legend. This place is legendary. Anyhow, was Bruce a real fighter? I see stuff, this is not something I focus on or seek out or have debates with people. I don't care. We're here to focus on what we do. I get up at 4 a.m. every morning. I'm in my garage. I work out because that's the mission. I don't care what anyone else is saying. I've been on the inside. I trained with somebody who was very close to Bruce, twice a week here, twice a week at Bruce's house. And I've also learned a whole lot about combat on the way through my journey. So was Bruce a real fighter? Well, today I'm going to give you some examples. First off, we got to think about context. This is 1960s. What we had back then were the kickboxing tournaments, and we had point fighting. If there's something else that was out there, let me know. But as far as pro fights go, we had Joe Louis, heavyweight kickboxing champion of the world, who Bruce worked out with and trained. You've got Bruce. First off, Bruce worked out with a lot of the top champions of the world. I think if he didn't know what he was doing, they wouldn't have brought him in. You can also see the difference in these guys after they started training with Bruce. A lot of knowledge sharing for sure, but you can see the difference in the influence that Bruce had on them. So we're going to look at some current fighters, given my knowledge from the inside and what Bruce was doing, and what I see out there in the world of people who are using what Bruce was pioneering way back then. Whether these people know it or not is not the point. And this is not to give credit to Bruce as far as he trained these guys, through a distance of time. It's not that either. It's that Bruce was on the path of figuring out and using what works, training his body, right? Combat, real combat. So I'll give you some modern examples of guys that do things that Bruce was doing back in his day. Switching leads during the fights, right? We fight both leads. Tyson was switching leads. Hagler, the boxer, Marvin Hagler, he was switching leads. Anderson Silva, he fights in both leads. Sugar Ray Leonard, he's another one that fought in both leads, and it worked to their advantage. You watch these guys fight, you see their motions, right? You look at a breakdown of them, and it was a huge part of their training and their fighting. So switching leads, first thing, real simple, might seem like it, maybe basic. I don't think so. I think it was part of Bruce's strategy, and he was way ahead of his time because he was doing this while guys were stuck in the lead, and later people started to experiment. Look at now, people are still married to a lead. Manny Pacquiao being a shorter fighter, right? Hand mobilization, right? You see this guy, Manny Pacquiao, using his feet, and you see what he'll do is he'll smack that jab down, take that distance and land that jab. He's got to do this on opponents that are taller and have longer reach. So one example, this is something that I do. I'll put myself in an unmatched lead, switching leads again. I'll smack a hand, right? Get that little mind trip there, right? Buy myself that time to land that first jab. So there's an example there, Manny Pacquiao. Footwork. Another thing, Bruce stressed and emphasized footwork. Manny Pacquiao, another example of that. He has to, because it's shorter. He's often shorter than a lot of his opponents. That's why he has to use that parry, because he has to cover that distance somehow. Hand mobilization, also footwork. Two important critical pieces to him closing the gap, Bruce's words, and landing those shots. You look at trapping, another example of trapping, style bender. He uses it all the time. Lomachenko, you see Lomachenko, same thing. When guys shell up, when he's dropping hits on him, smack their hand down. He'll smack that hand and hit. The hand mobilization, whether you call it a parry or a jut sao or a 360 block or a bong sao, doesn't matter. Don't get caught up in the names. Doesn't matter. So the idea is that the fundamentals and the essence and mechanics are there. Another example, Inoue Nagoya. Kid's a monster, undefeated as far as this recording, was this February still, 2021? Undefeated. You look at his timing, you look at his demeanor, right? No-mindedness, he's got it, right? You walk in, you look at him walk in, hitting inside hits, timing, perfect timing. This is all stuff that Bruce emphasized when he was training. Timing, footwork, speed, power, mechanics. He's got it. Look at Inoue, that's why they call him the Japanese Bruce Lee. He didn't get that name for nothing. But you look at watching Inoue and watching, having trained with Jerry and getting that firsthand knowledge of Bruce, you see that interplay, right? That's exactly what Bruce was doing back in his day in his training. Another example of Inoue, he uses heavy on that lead hand. He uses that lead hand a lot. Bruce, the lead hand is your closest weapon. It's just like, boxers, jab's most important punch. Same with the lead kick. Bruce, use your lead weapons because they're closer to the opponent. So you're going to rely on those most of the time. There's a percentage of that that fluctuates during the fight, given the context, but heavy emphasis on the lead hand. Inoue, timing, his speed, and heavy use on those lead weapons. There's an example. Tyson Fury, another example of intercepting his opponent's intentions using broken rhythm. He also uses his timing to interrupt other people's motions, and then he lands his attacks that way. He's doing all these things that fit into even the writings of Bruce. Look at the 5 ways of attack. It's all there. Sugar Ray Leonard. There's a story about Sugar Ray and Bruce way back. But the point is right now, heavy use on that lead hand, his speed, his power, his footwork, right? His body mechanics. This is all stuff that Bruce was doing. And there's no secret here. This isn't stuff that's like, you know, fantasy or some guy discovered this thing or it took like the special one with the power. It's none of that. This is just simple, fundamental mechanics, things that work in a fight. Also the sensitivity, right? The fight with that was Durant and Robert Durant and Sugar Ray Leonard, where they would clinch, and he would feel that sensitivity. He'd feel when Durant was about to let go and let something fly, and he used it. That sensitivity, right? Same thing with the trapping and all the chisao and all the energy drills we're doing. That is the type of skills that we're building. There's an example there. Mike Tyson, his low, right? His low hook to the uppercut in the middle, attack by draw. Tyson would throw that hook behind the opponent's arm. They would drop this elbow in, leaving this, up the middle open. So Tyson would throw that hook, and then he would come up the middle with the uppercut, devastating, knock people out. There's an example of an attack by draw. Whether any of these people knew what they were doing in the context of Bruce's mindset and his work, probably not, but it's irrelevant. The point is that everything you see out there, any fighter, pick any fighter, you watch something they do often, you watch a certain mechanic, a knockout, a fight ender, it fits into the 5 ways of attack that Bruce, the context that Bruce had defined, the bookends of a fight. And he didn't develop this to fit it in. He just looked at it, fight in its total reality, in its truth, and described it. He put the blueprint. That's what's happening there in as far as the 5 ways of attack go. So you look at all these fighters. I give you examples of boxers, MMA. These guys they got one job to do in the ring: close the gap, shut the person down. There's a lot of ways and strategies you can do this. Well, Bruce embodied this all. Well, Bruce looked at it in totality. This is all Bruce did all day long. Jerry was telling me Bruce was always doing something. Martial arts. Linda told me Bruce was always talking about martial arts. Oh, martial arts, martial arts. This was his life. Bruce embodied all of this, between not only from the standpoint of a fighter, given his physical abilities and his size, but also teaching. Whether you're teaching somebody that's shorter or taller or has maybe better hands, better feet, whatever it was. That's how Bruce taught, and that's how he broke it down. And you look at all these fighters, they all embody some part of Bruce's process. Bruce was a real fighter. Simple, right? That was his whole point of existence in the martial arts is what works in a fight. That's all that mattered. All right, I hope you guys like this video. Subscribe, share, like, comment. Check us out, ecjkd.com. Check out the online training. If you want to learn to train like a warrior, right? We put the sense back into your combat training. Check us out. We'll see you next time.